Good morning, my name is Matthew Callahan and welcome to Toit. This is a class you all been waiting for, Brewing 101, that will teach you the basics of brewing beer.
Beer. What is beer? Some terms that have been used in the past to describe it have been heavenly nectar, life-giving elixir, divine drink, and a host of other things. We agree with them all, but the less dramatic description, perhaps, would be that it's an alcoholic beverage born from brewing and fermentation of cereal, malted barley, and hops. Although there are many types of beers, they're very widely divided into ales and lagers. Despite their types, all beers share four fundamental, absolutely essential, common ingredients: water, yeast, malts, hops. Additionally, some rice, ragi, jaggery, orange peel, coriander, mango, nutmeg, allspice, cinnamon, pumpkin, passion fruit, and so on and so on. The endless possibility of natural ingredients is what makes craft beer so exciting and different from regular, bland, commercial varieties. The absence of additives and preservatives, along with natural fermentation, make craft beer a much healthier and tastier alternative than commercial beer. So, how do these ingredients come together to make craft beer? Malt is acquired by soaking grain, barley and sometimes wheat, in water just up until it begins to sprout. When the sprouting begins to happen, the grain breaks down the starch reserves present. After this, the grain is dried and cured and sometimes roasted depending on the flavors you are trying to achieve. At Toit, we source the highest quality malts available from the UK and Germany. We begin the brewing process by milling the malt. This is when we crush the malt to expose the inner parts of the corn for mashing. We then take the milled malt, or grist as it is called, and mix with a certain proportion of brewing liquor to form what is called a mash. What is brewing liquor, you ask? That brings us to our second ingredient, water. And beer pretty much is all water, about 95%, which we think personally makes it a great substitute for water. And your source makes all the difference in the world to how your beer tastes. Naturally occurring minerals also affect the flavor of the water, so we kind of need to go through a process of softening, filtering, and mineral adjusting before it's brew-worthy. When this process is completed, we call the resulting liquid brewing liquor, or simply put, very clean water. So, the mixture of water and malt, called the mash, is then held at various temperatures ranging from 35 to 72 degrees Celsius for a specified time, which allows enzymes to convert the starches present into sugar. The resulting mash is then put through a process called lautering, where we separate the liquid from the grain. The spent grain goes to the farmer for cattle feed, and the liquid, or sweet wort, goes to the kettle for boiling. The sweet wort is boiled for 60 to 90 minutes. Here we add the hops, and depending on the beer, fruit or spices. The boiling extracts the bitterness and aroma from the hops, and also sterilizes the wort and stabilizes the proteins. Hops are a distant cousin of cannabis. And no, don't sneak some into your pockets in the hope of growing some of your own. They're pretty useless when used for purposes apart from brewing. Hops are what give beer its signature bitterness and strong aroma. But that's not their only role. Hops are actually a natural preservative for beer. We get our hops from the Czech Republic, UK, US, and Germany. The wort is now transferred to a fermentation vessel through a wort cooler, where it is brought down from temperatures of over 95 degrees to fermentation temperatures of 12 to 23 degrees. This is where the yeast is added. These guys have a rather huge appetite for the sugar created by the malts and produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. In other words, the process of fermentation, which takes anywhere between 7 to 21 days depending on the kind of yeast. Once fermentation is complete, the beer is cooled to about 2 degrees Celsius and transferred to a maturation tank where it sits for about 2 to 5 days. Finally, and certainly the best part, the serving tanks are connected to a beer line, which is maintained at less than 2 degrees by a dedicated line chiller, so that you get a refreshing, cold beer on demand. At Toit, we have 6 signature brews that are rather close to our hearts. The Basmati Blonde, a blonde ale, the Tintin Toit, a Belgian wit, the Toit Weiss, Bavarian Hefeweizen, the Colonial Toit, an Indian Pale Ale, the Toit Red, an Irish Red Ale, and the Dark Knight, an Irish Dry Stout.
While our beers are pretty representative of international classics, we always try to represent our local roots just as much. We use local ingredients like ragi, mangoes, jaggery, pumpkin, local spices, and basmati rice for our brews, and we're always experimenting with new options. We like to think of ourselves as the mad scientist of brewing, the nutty professor, if you will, the Dr. Frankenstein. Well, you get the picture.